One of the most frustrating phrases I hear on YouTube comment threads and blog comment threads is, "You're being too simplistic, breaking this down into a left-right issue. I think more complex than that. I don't see everything as left and right." When the fact of the matter is that the left-right divide isn't merely a convenient shorthand to use. It's actually a very physical reality between two different types of people, two different types of ideologies. Now, I can certainly understand why somebody would view the left-right paradigm as overly simplistic, for the simple fact of the matter that politics nowadays are a complete mess. You see the parties switching sides constantly. You see incoherent values coming from both sides. I'm sure it would surprise none of you to learn that Obamacare was originally a doctrine created by the Heritage Foundation, a right-wing think tank. And during the 90s, during the early aughts, it was something the liberals hated. Now, Obamacare is something the liberals love. And the conservatives hate, when they were the ones touting it in the first place. So on the surface, it does seem like a ridiculous divide. It seems just as ridiculous as the two parties that you have to choose from, when they're both identical parties. They are both banker parties. They are both feminist parties. They are both expansionist parties. And quite frankly, none of them are the civil service, the people that actually run the government and write the laws. But that's because of a long history of liberalism. See, the devil was the first Whig, and things have been spiraling out of control for the past 200 years. So of course, the Republicans are just a pale reflection of the liberals. They're the same animal in different clothing. But when we talk about the right, what the right is planners. The fundamental difference between the left and the right is that the right are K-type, the left are R-type. The left want to live in a resource-rich environment. They want to breed as much as possible. Certainly the upper-class ones use birth control because they're completely disconnected from the ends that their behavior chooses. They don't want consequences for their decisions. They want to live in a fantasy land. And some other stuff we'll get to shortly, because the left is far worse than it was 500 years ago. Whereas the right is full of planners. The right is the grasshopper. Or correction, the right is the ant, compared to the grasshopper that sings and plays all summer long while the ant stores food. We don't have all the answers. Certainly in theory, given any situation, there is a best course of action. But we don't live in a world of such mathematical precision of belief that we can nail down exactly what that is. There's going to be differences of opinion amongst the elements of the right. There's going to be different heuristics. And we're going to muddle along as best we can. That's one of the things about this universe. You always act on incomplete information. But ultimately, we're focused on reality. We try and understand human nature for what it is. That you will have violent people, that hierarchy is something that comes naturally to society, that men and women have different sex drives, that operate in different manners, etc., etc. And we can have long conversations about this. Of course, people on the right are going to disagree with one another. But ultimately, we're all focused on reality, and we're all trying to survive the coming winter. The left, meanwhile. One of the interesting things about the left is how often it contradicts itself. which is a beautiful tactic for the left, because us on the right, we end up fighting one dragon and ignoring another, not realizing that this isn't a dragon we're fighting, it's a hydra. For instance, there is a right-wing tradition of socialism. Proper socialism. Now, all of us, to some degree, are socialists. Amongst our friends and family, we are socialists. For instance, the way me and my friends always used to refer to it was the beer debt. That if my buddy's broke on Friday night, and I'm not, I'll buy beers because I want to hang out with him. And then next Friday night, he'll buy beers or whatever. We don't keep a ledger. We trust one another. And that's the core of socialism. There's lots of different ways you can go about it. Certainly it does inhibit the free market, but the free market isn't everything. It is the best way to increase productivity, but it's not the human soul, it's not love, it's not art, it's productivity. It has its role, it's not everything. And we in the right will understand. We will disagree about how important it is, but at the end of the day, we're trying to survive. Whereas socialism is something entirely different for the left. It becomes an ideological hammer to push their ideas through. But let's go back to what I was saying. It's amazing how often these different heads of the Hydra snap at one another, and how easy it is to mistake them for different dragons when they're all part of the same beast. Let me give you some extreme examples of how incoherent the party can be. Heck, not even the party. Some of these individuals contain these ideas in their own head at the same time. It's the origin of doublethink. So let's take feminists. They hate patriarchy. They absolutely loathe patriarchy, even though it's been the most successful system, good for women, good for men, great for children, great for society in the future. They hate patriarchy. And they will lambaste Christians. They will write articles. Seriously, I was just reading an article a while ago about how couples that are sexist, married couples that have gender roles, and that have a stay-at-home wife, are happier and less likely to divorce than couples where both people work and there's no clear established gender roles. These couples are happier, and this is a problem that we need to address. Insanity is at these people's core. So yes, because it's patriarchy, even though everybody in the situation is far, far happier than they would be in the post-utopia liberal world, it's a problem because they hate patriarchy. And yet, you will hear feminists defending Islam. A culture that takes patriarchy and twists it into something psychotic for the women and the men. You'll certainly hear MRAs talk about male expendability. Guys, you ain't seen nothing. Go look at the Middle East. That is male expendability. If you aren't one of the top guys, you're a cur. You're a dog. You're useless. You're scum. Top guys get 4 wives. You get to fuck a little boy in the ass. As opposed to the Christian tradition of every man is the king of his castle. Every man gets a wife, so long as he meets the bare minimum standards. So these feminists hate Christianity, which is all about treating women well, and yet they celebrate Islam. They've got this liberal obsession with freedom. Now, on the right, to varying degrees, we all accept that there's going to be restrictions upon our liberties. Contract law, of something as simple as if you marry somebody, you've made a commitment to them, you've signed a contract, you owe them something. And you can't break that contract unless if the other partner breaks it. You know, if you break it, there are consequences to pay. But the liberals reject that. They want the perfect, absolute license to do whatever they want. And yet they're also the first ones to tell you how to live your life. First ones to create the police state, the surveillance state, the politically correct state where you have freedom of speech so long as you agree with us. Then you've got the feminists and the GLBT community. And this one's absolutely hilarious. The feminists love to scream about how gender roles are learned, how we shouldn't teach boys to play with trucks and girls to play with dolls, how we need to get rid of gendered pronouns, how we should dress little boys like girls and little girls like boys. Yeah, this whole sex role thing, made up. Yeah, Christianity and every other religion just happened to invent the exact same gender roles. But homosexuality is not a choice. Homosexuality is genetic, but sexuality is a choice. The liberals are for legalization of weed, and yet against cigarettes. Oh, and let's not forget, the liberals are obsessed with health. Your typical upper-class liberal, you know, they do the marathon running. You know, they don't do weightlifting. Weightlifting is prole. It's, oh, look at that guy. He's too muscular. That's not attractive when someone's supposed to. No, they do long-distance running because men and women can equally long-distance run, more or less. It's about showing up to the event. Everybody's a winner. Garbage. Instead of weightlifting, where men are clearly superior and some men are far, far better than other men. No, they don't like that competition. They're health psycho-vitamin freaks. And they also are against fat shaming. So you see this big mix of like all these completely opposite ideas that cannot coexist with one another. And that's the camp of the Liberal Party, of the leftist. And so, yeah, right there on the surface, it seems like calling all of that leftist, you know, you're putting a bunch of heterogeneous objects into the same vat. It doesn't really make perfect sense, does it? Well, again, the soul of the leftist is not, it's not about empowering women for the sake of empowering women. It's not about pretending that all races are identical in temperament because they are or something like that. No, the soul of the liberal is the Marxist. This was perhaps never realized so perfectly until the 1800s. Until that point where people were getting better fed. You had this post-mutation of Christianity. You had guns empowering people because everybody's equal with the gun. But the modern Marxist is a utopian. Of course, I mean the original word utopia, of a existence which cannot exist, a contradiction in nature. The Marxist thinks they can build the perfect society. The only problem is all the people. All those messy people that just won't behave the way they're supposed to. The fundamental goal of the Marxist is to destroy the pillars of society. So you've got the feminists attacking men for two different reasons. They're attacking men, first of all, because men are the more productive sex. Our mental temperament, our physical strength leads to greater production. You put a man alone in the woods, then a month you're going to see a cabin. Women are not so inclined to build things. There's a reason that Minecraft is mainly a game for guys. There's a reason little boys like playing with Lego. The genders are different. Women are nurturers, men are builders. So that's the first thing. If you want to destroy a society, you need to make the society poor. So, attack men for being economically productive. Tax them to death so that we don't want to work anymore. And send all that money over to women. Empower the woman so she thinks she's the economic equal of the man, when in most cases, for most women, it's only a huge bevy of legislation that allows them to compete economically. The other reason, the sex-positive feminism, another contradiction there, porn is rape, but we're sex-positive slut-walk women, yeah. The sex-positive feminism is to try and get girls to sleep around like guys to make them miserable. There's nothing feminists hate so much as a happy housewife. They know she's happy. They know the kids are better off. They know that the husband is busting his ass to support them, and he's happy to be busting his ass to support them. And that whole situation sickens them, because that's something strong. That's something healthy. And as long as that little glimmering seed of light exists, you can't completely deconstruct all the people. So, turn women into whores. Encourage them to go sleep around, which tends to induce mental illnesses in women because you ladies weren't designed to sleep around the way that guys are able to sleep around. Make the women unmarriageable and beat the men so hard over the head with feminist ideology that they become a bunch of pathetic beta losers who are also unmarriageable. Destroy the marriage. The diet advice: centralize everything. Destroy people. You don't smack them on the head one moment for eating all that refined sugar, and then come and tell them from a doctor that you need to eat more refined sugar and less red meat. Promise them socialism, but give them welfare. Teach them to be slaves. Oppose slavery. Talk about the free market economy. Call it wage slavery. But then give people free money if they'll keep voting for you, even though you're destroying their neighborhoods. The left has many faces, but all of them are focused on destroying humanity. See, they celebrate our differences. They want us to be open-minded, to allow everybody into our organizations. They don't want us drawing tribal lines, but then they create these tribal lines. They create these subcultures. They create these marketing departments. And now, here's the thing. Today, what are we? Well, I'm a goth. I'm a hip-hop kid. I'm a skater. I'm a idiot that wears glasses, even though I don't need a prescription. I'm a hipster. We have all these subcultures. But what happened to our culture? Well, having a culture is racist if you're healthy. Oh, a degenerate black subculture? Oh no, we'll encourage that. But a healthy culture? Not allowed. We're going to atomize you, bit by bit. We're going to break off the extended family. Then, we're going to break apart the nuclear family. It's just been an invention of the past 2,000, 4,000 years, the nuclear family. We're going to get you to align with subcultures that we market to you. That change, but they are always the same. We're going to talk about teenage rebellion. Rebellion against what? Well, rebellion against your parents. We don't want you getting along with your parents, now do we? We're going to make you poor and dependent upon us. We're going to take away your self-respect. We're going to take away your guns. We're going to take away your strength and your hope for the future. We're going to cripple your legs and sell you a pair of crutches. And once everybody is on crutches, well, then we can do whatever the hell we want with you. We will put you in room 101 and teach you to love Big Brother, and then we will have the perfect society where men and women are interchangeable, where there is no sense of ethnic pride, of nationalism, of familial bonding. No, none of that. Sex will become a bowel movement, and we'll all be perfect cogs in their machine. That is the soul of the leftist. Every single one of them is either a useful idiot or actively working towards this end. So don't get worked up attacking your fellow brothers and sisters on the right. I see far too many instances of people, for instance, attacking feminism and then saying that we need more Islam in North America. Have you seen how prosperous the Middle East is? If Islam is so great, then you can certainly move there. And it's not as if the Islamic countries aren't being infected with feminism as we speak. But it's patriarchal. No! That's not the point. The point is not this one little battle that you're fighting against this one particular head. It's a hydra. It all comes from the same place. Destruction of the West, destruction of our society, destruction of our history, destruction of our very souls. So don't malign your brothers on the right unnecessarily. Yes, we disagree on things. Some of us are free market anarchists. Others are monarchists. Others are libertarians. And there's a lot of good argument to be had there. Some of us are atheists. Some of us are Christians. But instead of letting yourself get wrapped up in some big, stupid argument about abortion, anybody on the right can agree that abortion is an ugly thing. Some people will say it's a necessary thing. Other people will say that it's an evil thing from the beginning. Some people will even go so far as to say that birth control, period, is morally identical. And certainly, some of it is. But at the end of the day, none of us celebrate abortion. It might be necessary, Whereas the left, they seem to have outright glee about the whole thing. A lot of us on the right are quite disgusted with the concept of the family. And, take one cruise through the suburbs, and you can understand why. Look at these fat idiots with their cookie-cutter houses, all trying to keep up with the Joneses, raising terrible monster children, passing them off to school teachers and nannies to raise. It's a pretty ugly, disgusting thing. But at the same time, we all know we need children for the future. We have a birth rate of 1.6 in Canada. Replacement is 2.1. We are going extinct. We can have different perspectives on all this stuff. On the right, we can have interesting conversations. But ultimately, what it boils down to is surviving, is about thriving. The liberals are all environmentalists. And yet they want us to send more free money to the third world, where they're breeding like bunny rabbits and they can't support themselves. The liberals are more than just R-type savages. Plenty of them are merely R-type savages. And a lot of people that vote liberal are just poor, misguided fools. But the real leaders of the liberal movement, they're not just spoiled children. And they're worse than just narcissists. They're people that are actively working to destroy everything that has been accomplished since the fall of Rome. People that hate whites. They hate technology. They hate complex art. They hate children. They hate love. They hate strength. They hate knowledge. Anything that is good in the world, they hate. These are people that Nietzsche challenged to become better than just a low church slave. And they stared into the abyss so long that all they can do is worship evil and try and degrade the entire human race to the same lowest common denominator. So when you hear people talk about the left and the right, you might not be the same type of right that they are, but you're going to have a lot in common. You can have some interesting disagreements. You can have an argument. You can both learn things from one another. But when you talk to somebody on the left, doesn't matter if it's a feminist, an environmentalist, socialist, a communist, it doesn't matter. They're all the same ugly, life-hating little monster on the inside. They are our enemy. And so long as we spin our wheels, fighting each other or supporting this particular leftist cause, they're winning. Remember who your brothers are and support one another, because this world is fast becoming a very scary place to live. Aurini out, folks.